London, greatest city in the world. Footballing wise anyway, there are very few that match it. Who sets the standard in the capital? It's always been Chelsea and Arsenal. It's the longest running top flight derby, and today, nearly 115 years to the day, they do battle. It began in 1907 with a 2-1 Chelsea win at Stamford Bridge. Since then, we've met another 204 times and we've played everywhere. We've been to a cup final in Cardiff, we've been to Baku and back. We've even played an FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal at White Hart Lane. The tubes are starting to roll in already. It's a big one this afternoon. Families and friends are divided by this one. North or south of the river, you know who you are, but not just here. All around the world, everyone picks a team. Today, it's blue versus red. It's north versus south of London. It's Chelsea versus Arsenal. There's a clash in the capital, and it's coming. Derby days like this, they don't come around that often, so we need to make the most of it. Graham Potter's first taste of Chelsea versus Arsenal. Stamford Bridge, a wet and damp setting for this one. There's no doubt that one or two have got their own narrative ready to write this afternoon. Anything can happen, the manager said in his pre-match press conference. Anything can happen when it's Chelsea and Arsenal. Looking forward to this one. 12 o'clock kickoff right here on Chelsea. Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. Looking forward to this one. London derbies are always special. Chelsea and Arsenal, it's got a little bit different about it though, isn't it? It's not the London derby, but it's probably the biggest. In the company of the brilliant Abby McCarthy. Abby, how are you?
Yeah, really good. I mean, games don't get much bigger than this, like you say. London derby, these two teams, two greats, fighting for bragging rights, title. We've gone against them for big cups. I mean, this is absolutely huge, and I'm very, very nervous.
Hopefully, Elizabeth, you're not as nervous for us. How are you feeling about this game? Thank you very much for joining us.
Of course, Joe. And I mean, I'm not the best indicator because I'm nervous ahead of every Chelsea match. It literally doesn't matter the opponent. I just get this mix of nerves and excitement every time I get to see the team play. But I'm feeling pretty good. So let's see what happens. And I'm excited to talk about the game.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? It does feel like that nervous energy does tend to happen quite a lot. But Chelsea and Arsenal, there's going to be nervous energy from both sides. And arguably, you'd say, Abby, coming into this, there's a little bit more pressure on Arsenal.
Yeah, where Arsenal are currently in the table, second, and they've had a phenomenal season so far, which I think, we'll be honest, has taken a lot of us by surprise. I mean, they've got one of the best defences in the league. I think it's only Newcastle that have let in less than them, and I didn't expect that, seeing them last season. They've obviously got lots of promising young players. They're kind of going into this as the favourites, which we're not used to, but then we're Chelsea. We also work as the underdogs, and of course, they'll back us all the way.
Absolutely right, and especially after midweek, Elizabeth, a good performance and a good result against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League for Chelsea.
Definitely. And I think the scoreline maybe was even a little bit flattering to Dinamo Zagreb because Chelsea absolutely dominated that game. They had loads of shots, I believe 6 shots on target, and just needed to be a little bit more clinical. But the opportunities were coming. So if we can keep that intensity and bring it to this Arsenal game, I'm feeling pretty positive.
And it's also about learning, isn't it, Abby? You know, we forget Graham Potter's not been in situ that long as a Chelsea manager, and I think there are fairly similarities. We'll cover those a little bit later on between Chelsea's sort of spell under Potter and Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. But defensively, a little bit slow starting in the week. But I guess if you're going to do that and then you're going to react and you're going to win the game, that's the main thing that the manager would have asked for. Yeah,
Graham Potter said that a lot, actually, in his recent press conferences, hasn't he? How it is going to take a little while. He didn't even get a pre-season with these players, but actually, he's only really lost one game. Like, I think sometimes we lose our heads as fans, don't we, because we believe in Chelsea so much. But we're still on a great run, and it feels like Potter is getting his message across. And like you say, you can definitely draw the comparisons between him and Arteta. I think everyone's seen the infamous documentary, but it feels like, you know, his message has finally clicked for Arsenal, and they're reaping the rewards.
Absolutely right, and in fairness, you know, you see the goal that, I mean, Petkovic, it's a really good header and he comes in early, but it's a very different threat to one you'd assume that Arsenal will pose today in terms of, you know, hanging balls up into box. Jesus is very good in the air, but it's obviously going to be a very different test today, and, you know, Edu Mendy does his best there to prevent the goal, but he's obviously only fairly recently come back into the side as well. This is the kind of link-up play that we want to see a lot more of today, though, Elizabeth, and Raheem Sterling, delighted that he got on the score sheet. You could see how much that one meant to him.
Definitely, and he's been on a teensy bit of a goal drought recently, so I think that hopefully by scoring versus Dinamo Zagreb, and it was a really well taken goal, as you see there, he had to have really fantastic footwork, and it's kind of funny because the most difficult things it seems like Raheem Sterling makes look so easy. So hopefully that goal is going to give him some confidence ahead of this match, and that we can see him back on the score sheet.
Absolutely right, and Denis Zakaria as well, Abby. What an impact he made on his Chelsea debut. You know, he's been speaking quite a lot. A lot of Chelsea fans have been asking to see him, and he was fantastic in the week. He made an immediate impression, getting a goal on his Chelsea debut. Quite a lot of social media reaction to this as well, rightly so, because he deserves quite a lot of plaudits after the performance he put in. But how impressed were you? Just
I was
some of these, but how impressed were you?
so impressed. Going forwards, Denis the Menace. That's what I'm calling him. He went in and instantly made his impact, didn't he? I was really impressed actually how his physicality he was so good on the ball. He just sunk into it really quickly, and obviously the finish was brilliant as well. Nice to see him rewarded with a goal. And I saw Mason Mount being given his man of the match kind of trophy afterwards, and he was like, hang on a minute, I think it should go to Denis, you know? And I think the team was so impressed at his performance, and yeah, rightfully so.
Absolutely right. I mean, the sensational stats you can see there, 39 out of 40 passes completed, Elizabeth. That's something that obviously is very important to any Graham Potter team, is the fact that you can turn the ball over and you're comfortable in possession. But at the same time, he offers something very different to all the other options we've got in the middle, apart from maybe Ruben, who's got that sort of physicality element about him. But, you know, Denis Zakaria does give Chelsea a very different option, and now that he looks like he's up to speed straight away, what a fantastic option to be.
Absolutely. I was actually looking up ahead of Matchday Live just how tall he is, and he's 1.91 meters or 6 feet and 3 inches if you're American like me. So he's just a really tall option in that midfield, which gives a big presence. And something that I noticed in the Dinamo Zagreb game was because he had that really strong defensive presence and he's defensively minded, it also allowed Jorginho a bit more freedom and time to pick out his passes. And like you mentioned, it's just a profile player that we don't really have in the squad at the moment. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where he slots in and where he gets his minutes. I thought that he was brilliant against Dinamo Zagreb, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him do the same in the Premier League.
That's the really key part, isn't it? Is because he's something very different, but he's very important to that Chelsea team, and obviously immediately shows an impact. He's not actually in the starting lineup today, but he's definitely an option from the bench. In fact, let's hand over to the gantry and Jason and Pat to talk us through who Graham Potter has selected for this one. Over to you, boys.
Well, thanks for coming to us, and I'm going to say a phrase I can't remember ever saying on this, in this gantry, or even maybe in this stadium. Good morning from Stamford Bridge. Good morning for a change.
Very good morning, Pat.
Yes, good morning. It's amazing actually to be so early, but we're up for it. We're ready for it, and we've got the team now, and it's quite a strong team, isn't it? There's a lot of experience there. We're going to have to try and get a hold of what the system's going to be, because we're not 100% sure yet. And if we're not sure, then Arsenal ain't sure. How are you seeing it, Jason?
Well, I mean, there's different permutations of what this could be. With Asprey playing Chalabra and Silva, it could be a 3 at the back. You've got Cooker out right wing back. We've seen Ruben play right wing back as well. The problem you've got in then, who plays alongside Jorginho? And there's your problem with Sterling, Kai, Mace and Uber. So it looks like a 4. Looks like a 4-2-3-1. Of course, these systems are so fluid, but this was the debate. Pat, you and I spoke at length before a couple of hours ago about what we think it might be, the system he might play. Koulibaly's not been chosen, which tells me it probably is a 4.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely, because Koulibaly's the obvious one. He's the left-sided of a 3. You would have Silva and Chalobah in there if you're going to play a 3 at the back. But it's adaptable. That's the thing, is it's incredibly adaptable. You can change it. Aspi can play one of those central defender positions. So can Cucurella to some degree as well. And you would just use one of the other players, such as Ruben, as you say, as the wing back. But I mean, I have to say, I'm quite excited by the fact that we're going to talk about a lot of players, but that midfield era, Havertz maybe coming from deeper area, I like him better there. I think he can play up front, but Aubameyang, if he's playing up front, Havertz coming from deeper, he's very dangerous. He's actually started scoring from that position again, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. And what you're looking for there is you're looking for players to get round Uber. That Mace on that left-hand side, Sterling on the right. They're playing in their more natural position, in particular Sterling, like playing left wing back against Brighton. Let's be honest, it didn't really work, and it fell apart at the seams quite early on in that. It's always hard to get back into a game like that. But what we don't want to see really is the gaffer having to change his formation to adapt to them again. And that's been a little bit of an issue of late. Stick with it, be brave. This is what you've gone with. We know what they're going to do. It's going to be a 4-3-3 or 4-1-2-3, whatever you want to say. You know they're going to play. Zinchenko's the only real change. Tomiyasu has gone out. Zinchenko's excellent, a big fan of his. Nothing really changes for them.
Well, we think it's going to be a 4. You can argue yourselves if it's going to be a 3. We'll come back to you with more ideas in a little while when we're absolutely sure about it. But I'm just thanking you, Joe, for coming to us and not saying, which is it? Because I don't know yet.
Boys, fantastic as always. And if anyone's going to have an idea, it's going to be you two, because we're exactly the same. We're asking questions, who it's going to be, what's going to happen. But what we do know is it's a big rivalry, Abby. So whoever gets the opportunity today, it's an opportunity for a player to play in one of the best games in the country. You know, playing Chelsea-Arsenal is a big one. It's similar to Manchester United. You know, we've had tussles in the past for, like you've already mentioned, trophies and sort of bigger occasions. But it feels that maybe today is almost one of the biggest occasions, because there are similarities between the two teams in terms of the journey and the progression. You look at Arsenal maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8 months further down the line than potentially we are in this transition. But this is saying it here, you know, many players who have played for both Arsenal and Chelsea in this era considering such a big rivalry. It's a respectful rivalry more than most, I'd say.
Yeah, but still a huge rivalry, and you've got an added narrative in today with obviously Aubameyang coming up against his old club. He's going to be desperate to score. We all know how he left Arsenal, how things got left there. Everyone's seen the infamous documentary. I think it's going to be box office football today.
I'm really looking forward to it, Elizabeth, as well, because I've got Arsenal fans, Arsenal friends that are fans, and we all know one or two that are very confident the way things are going at the moment. The one thing that unnerves me as a Chelsea fan is I can kind of see for once in about a decade why they're confident, because they do look very good, don't they?
They have looked really good, and like we've kind of been saying, I didn't expect them at the beginning of the season when they had this incredible run to still be at this place, at this point, that if they win this game, they go 2 points ahead of Man City. They're looking super strong. Like Abby mentioned, the defense is looking good. They're firing on all shots. That front three of Martinelli, Saka, and Gabriel Jesus is looking really strong as well. And not Shaka, sorry. I just feel like they're looking so incredibly strong going into this match. But Chelsea have put out a really good starting 11 as well. It's going to be interesting how we line up in this match and deal with that, especially in the midfield. I think that could be where this game is won and lost.
I completely agree. I think that is going to be a fascinating battle that we're going to find out. But right now, though, I did actually catch up with Dan Roebuck, who is part of the Arsenal media team, who's here today, for a very interesting chat, actually, about this a little while ago, about what he sees from this afternoon's game. OK, so I'm in the press box, Stamford Bridge. We're getting prepared for a big game this afternoon. I'm delighted to say I'm with Dan Roebuck from Arsenal TV, your main commentator. Obviously, you've seen a lot of these games in the past. How are you feeling about today?
Yeah, I have seen a lot of these games. Some good, some not so good. I'm feeling fairly confident. Arsenal this season, as I think everybody knows, have come on so much. There's a real positivity around the club. There is an awful lot of ambition with Mikel Arteta, and I think it's now his squad. The signings that he made in the summer, very, very positive. Brought in the likes of Zinchenko and also Jesus, winners with Manchester City. So this is where we're at with Arsenal. So I'm fairly positive that we might get another Arsenal win today.
That's my concern, you see, because you brought in Zinchenko and Jesus, and like you said, now had to win it with Man City. So there's a difference, isn't there, sort of mentality-wise, and you can see that from the players that Mikel Arteta has brought into the club. Even Martin Ødegaard, sort of one of the earlier ones, in fact, that he's made him captain, and seems to be getting a tune out of players that perhaps previous managers or regimes didn't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that the inclusion and the introduction of those type of players can rub off, and certainly rub off on younger players. So, you know, the likes of Saka and Smith are obviously injured at the moment, and the younger players that have come through over the course of the last few years, now they're all sort of 100 games in, the Nketiahs and the Martinellis and so on. and they're not maybe tainted by what we saw with, you know, the most recent generation of the past. So I think that's a massive positive. And when you get in those players that come who have won Premier Leagues, that rubs off. And of course, Mikel Arteta knew these players anyway. He was at Manchester City with Jesus. So yeah, there is it does feel very different this season.
There's a lot of similarities, I guess, between Mikel Arteta and Arsenal and Chelsea under Graham Potter now in terms of a process and sort of a likelihood of there are going to be times where perhaps things don't go your way. You know, we saw obviously Chelsea's disappointing defeat last weekend and things that are going to go well. So from an Arsenal fan's perspective, do you see that similarity?
I think that's very true. I mean, Potter comes from a different base than Arteta. I mean, Potter's much more experienced from a managerial point of view. He was in charge of Östersund, of course, who beat Arsenal a few years ago, and his progression has been slightly different. Arteta obviously was a good player, played for Arsenal and so on and so forth, so he comes in a slightly different way. But in terms of what he's planning to do, you sense that Potter is different. He's not an Ancelotti, he's not a manager or a Kanté that comes in with an awful lot of winning experience. So yeah, I can see that, and I think that Graham Potter potentially could get there a bit quicker than Mikel Arteta. It's like Mikel Arteta's 150th game in charge, incidentally, today of Arsenal. He's got a better win rate than Arsene Wenger, and in fact every other Arsenal manager who made it to 150 games, so which is quite surprising really. He's lost a few more, but he's won more than the others. But yeah, I can certainly see the similarities, and I think that Chelsea potentially can get there quicker because you're probably prepared to spend a bit more money a bit quicker as well.
Big question, and I'm going to put you on the spot. You may not know it, but the rain's coming down. Does Mikel Arteta own a big coat?
That is a very good question. He's usually very smart. He's a sort of black sweater, grey slacks and some nice shoes. Yeah, that's a very good question. I've not seen him in a big Arsene Wenger can't fasten the zip coat yet. So today might be the day. It is going to rain, isn't it, for much of the day, I think. So he will need one. That's a great call. Let's hope he doesn't turn up with an umbrella, shall we? Okay, then finally, from an Arsenal fan's perspective, how are you feeling about today? Because Chelsea fans, they always feel, I get the sense anyway as a Chelsea fan myself, that big games are where you see the best of Chelsea. Is that the same feeling for Arsenal? Is today the biggest test you've had so far? Do you know what? It feels that way because, you know, for a few years, Arsenal taking on members of the Big Six, you know, from an Arsenal point of view, you worried about it. But this season, obviously, defeat at Manchester United, but wins over Liverpool, and Spurs as well, admittedly both at home. So I think Arsenal fans go in with much more positivity this time around. It's still Chelsea away, and we seem to have these situations with Arsenal-Chelsea rivalry that, you know, one team is dominant for a good few years, then the other one is. Recently we've had a bit of Arsenal dominance, so I'm hoping that will continue today.
Dan, it's been lovely to meet you, and I hope you're wrong. So enjoy the game and not too much. Thank you. Lovely, lovely man. Shame he's going to be crying at full time.
Exactly. Sorry.
It was fantastic. Abby, he raises a really good point about, you know, some of the players that Mikel has had a positive impact on. Let's talk about a player that Graham Potter's already seemed to have a positive impact on in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And obviously, we know this means a lot for him, yes, considering his record at Arsenal. But how important is he to this Chelsea team? And is today maybe that catalyst for him to sort of fire his way into the sort of Chelsea record books, as it were?
I think so. This is a chance for him to really make his name at Chelsea, make his mark. We've always needed this number 9, you know, like a bona fide striker, someone like him that is just world class and can create those moments of magic, can score goals in big moments. And I feel like because he's, you know, so experienced, he's not going to let, you know, the pressure and the occasion get to him today. He's going to channel that energy, and I think hopefully create some of that magic that we know he can today.
It's one of those, isn't it, Elizabeth, that it's such a big game. You know, everyone thinks of Chelsea-Arsenal, and from a Chelsea fan's perspective, the first player I think of is Didier Drogba. You know, he had such an impact in games against Arsenal, and I think that's the first thing that springs to mind. If you've got a performance in you and you bring it out on the big occasion against an Arsenal, you can almost build on that. And it almost went into it after 3 or 4 games. I know Arsenal fans that were friends of mine that would go into it and you'd be thinking, well, Drogba will score definitely. We just have to score more than Drogba does. And if you can play into that psyche as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, they know how good he is. But imagine that as a sort of mental challenge for them to overcome a player that was obviously formerly their captain.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously, he scored versus Crystal Palace in both games in versus AC Milan, and he hasn't scored since then. So I think that he's going to be not only looking for a goal, but he's going to be knowing that he kind of has something to prove, and maybe because of the history there, he is going to definitely want to go, maybe more so in other games. Of course, he probably always wants to go, but there's just that extra motivation in this match. And I think maybe the Arsenal defense as well, they don't want to have to say like, oh, we conceded to Aubameyang. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out.
Oh, it really is. We know it means a lot to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang this afternoon. In fact, let's hear from the man himself.
You're on the blue side of a London derby this weekend.
Yes.
Must be excited.
Yes, definitely a very exciting game, and also because they're doing well at the moment. Yeah, before I was on the other side, and yeah, of course I have some memories of few games I played against Chelsea. Now it's gonna be so much different, but hopefully we can win this game, and yeah, we play at home, so it's going to be, I think, really exciting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You're obviously a player with a lot of leadership qualities, an experienced player. How have you used them so far in the dressing room since you've come to Chelsea?
Yeah, definitely. I try to always give advices, you know. I'm not a guy that will speak when cameras are there, but I do my job like secretly. No, but I mean, I think the best thing you can do when you are an experienced player is make the young players feeling comfortable when they're in the dressing room, and I try to be as cool as possible, and yeah, but I had a warm welcome as well, so yeah, I'm doing well at the moment.
A young striker in your position, Armando Broja, have you had many conversations with him and helped him in any way so far?
Yeah, we're talking like quite a few times already. Yeah, I try to give him some tips, you know, but I always say to him that when we're working, for example, in front of the goal, that remember, this is the only chance you will have during the game, and try to be in that mindset, you know, and I think this can help him, because otherwise I think he don't need so much, because he's so good. I think with his game, he has pace, he's strong, he's really strong, and yeah, it's all about finishing and yeah, always being positive. That's it.
Just lastly, it's the first of 3 games, big week I think, Pierre,
yes.
Isn't it, ahead of the break for the World Cup?
Yes, I think big week coming, and yeah, we will try to give everything to get the most of it. Obviously, yeah, the first game he's at home, and yeah, against Arsenal again. I think this is gonna be fun for sure.
92 goals that he scored for Arsenal. I mean, I'm not challenging him to meet that today at Chelsea, but
be nice.
it does feel that there's a little bit of a different side to Pierre from we've seen from afar. Now seeing him up close and in those sort of interviews, he feels at home, doesn't he? He feels quite relaxed, and it's maybe not something that many people would have felt. He'd have felt so relaxed so quickly, but he's an important figure to the dressing room.
Yeah, because he was such a big player for Arsenal, scored a lot of goals, as you just mentioned. It's kind of amazing, really, how he's fitted straight in here at Chelsea. And I do just see him as a Chelsea player. He seems at home, and seeing a really nice side of him in interviews as well. It seems like he's really matured and he's in a really good place mentally right now, which means, you know, he can bring his best on the pitch, and that's what we want to see.
Oh, we absolutely do. I really hope that in 10 years' time we're doing this same show. I hope we're doing that anyway, but in 10 years' time, and we do a trivia question, and it's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored his first Chelsea hat-trick against who?
Oh,
let's hope. That's not the question today. Let's have a look what the question is for today, though. Oh, my word, how many goals did Didier Drogba score for us against Arsenal in all competitions?
It's going to be a lot, I'll tell you that.
It's going to be... Elizabeth, any early guesses, any numbers spring to mind immediately?
This is just going to be completely off. I don't know if it's going to be low or high. The number that came into my mind was 20. I don't know if that's low or high. It could be completely absurd. But yeah, what are you guys thinking?
I immediately... 15 was the number that jumped to my mind.
I was literally going to say 15,
so I think we're not far off.
Yeah.
I think we're not far off. Anyway,
okay.
Savage Dan's going to come in as well in a little while, so he can help you out with that.
Yes.
So you can take control of this,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Elizabeth's going to stay with us as well. Of course, all the build-up continuing now. Chelsea versus Arsenal. Over to the gantry. Warm-up.
Wherever we go, Travago is with us, and now they bring us to Stamford Bridge to follow the warm-up of the Blues for the match against Arsenal. And Jason, it should be an absolute cracker.
Patrick, good afternoon. Yes, no,
Yes,
good morning, you.
Still good morning.
There you go. There's the first mistake. Hopefully that's the only one. Look, it's one of those fixtures, Pat. Us as players and as fans now, you look at when's Arsenal, when's Spurs, when's Liverpool, when's Man United, now when's Man City. So these are the games we'll look forward to. I just wonder though, Pat, here's a question for you. 12 o'clock kickoff. Very weird atmosphere coming to Stamford Bridge. Very somber. It's different, isn't it? And not just for the fans, but players. I wonder if that's a little bit of a leveller here.
Sometimes it can have that effect, can't it? It can be a dull start to a game when it's and then it builds up. Remember the Premier League games yesterday? They were on fire on bonfire night, weren't they? There was so many good goals, so many exciting games that were going on. I actually was at the Everton game, which wasn't that exciting. However, we have got a lot of exciting players out here tonight, but you can't really start with any other player. But Aubameyang's the one we need to talk about, isn't it? I mean, it's so important to Arsenal when he was with us, but from minute one, he'll be dying to get involved here, isn't he? And there's a feeling between him and Arteta. He's going to want to put one over on him, isn't he?
Yes, of course. Look, that he won't really want that to be what it is, but you can't help but deny the media around it. We're talking about it. I think what we need to do as a team, Pat, is not leave him isolated. My mind goes back not that many games, Aston Villa away. Totally isolated, hardly saw him get involved. It was difficult for him to get involved. And what we can't do in a game like this today is leave him like that. Now, the formation today is different, we think, so therefore we should get more bodies around him. But you don't want him to become frustrated and it become a little bit easy for the two centre-halves to deal with him. So yes, we want him involved. Now, I often say, and I sit here, Pat, and I know this is a bit of a bog-standard thing, but you want a high energy, high intense start the game well. It doesn't always happen. It's impossible to start every game like that. But today for him, you feel as though we might just need that.
I think we all need it. Here's another possible point, and we need to take this into consideration about Aubameyang. Everyone is, or most people are expecting him to start up front. He could start left.
Oh,
he actually could.
Oh, there's a curveball. Well, Kai could go down the middle. Yep. I think he'll start down the middle, but there are permutations of this Chelsea 11 that could be anything from a 3 to a 5 to a 4 to a two-man midfield to a 4-3-3. You know, and then once you start getting to that kind of the realms of that, Pat, you could start picking anyone.
And it will adapt all the way through the game.
You want it to be adaptable. And Arsenal.
Right. Well, that word adapt, we'll have to actually limit the amount of times we like to use it because adaptable is the buzzword. However, the gap between the attack and the defence, we both spotted this down in Brighton. We can't let it happen. Now, that was a real worry and a real concern. Good teams, and teams like Arsenal, want that gap because they've got good players in the midfield, can't they?
Yes, they can. And here's a couple of examples of what we saw. This is too easy. 6 players bypassed. Over half your team bypassed from one straight ball. And then all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball. Then you're chasing back towards goal. Then this happens. The space when you play a 3 is in behind the wing-backs. Once they get in behind there, that's where you... Once you've got all 11 players, Pat, running back towards their own goal, you can't be in a good shape. It's impossible to be in a shape when you're all running back with your faces towards the goal you're defending. It's impossible. You want to get yourself so you can see the pitch, so you've got your number to the keeper, and there's where you get your shape. And there's just 2 examples, Pat.
And of course, that was Brighton. This is Arsenal. That's Arsenal's game, isn't it? They love to play from the back and try to get gaps there in the middle, and they have got some decent players in there. You know, I do rate Odegaard. We can't give players like him good space.
Pat, but look, I think at times you've got to allow the players some responsibility. They've got to take responsibility. Every single time you want to play it from the back, it's not always on. You might want to try it, but what you've then got to do, you then got to come up with the plan B. And as the player, what you saw there, that first clip of Brighton, where the players are pressed, every Chelsea player is static. They're not closing spaces there. They're stood. That's easy to bypass. What we now need to do, if it's not on to play out from the back, we may have to go a little bit longer. And that option gives us, with Kai, who's good in the air, and Aubameyang, when you're playing just one up top and he's isolated. That long ball, it's a painful ball to watch. As a centre forward, it's a painful ball to receive because you're outnumbered and they win the second ball. If we have to go long, second balls, get bodies around the front man, get bodies around Aubameyang, Kai, and then make it a little bit of a fight in the middle of the park.
Right, so, by the way, we can do that. We're capable of doing that, but we have to make sure that we've got the energy to do that and don't get closed down. A possible problem, you talk about what the players that we've got in there, a good like Kai, etc. However, beware of Arsenal's set-piece threat. We didn't used to say that about the Arsenal, did we?
Well, look, Tomiyasu's not playing today. They had a back four of Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and it's going to be Zinchenko today, but I thought we would...
When that misses us against Brighton, and we were put under a bit of pressure, lose the goal as well, don't we?
You know what, they're good balls into that near post, but we're not dealing with any of them, Pat. You know, not one of them, right? And this is a recycled corner. This is where bodies are still in there. It was a concern from minute one, and it turned out to be a massive problem throughout the game, and this doesn't make for great reading either, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, it's something when we've got the likes of Thiago Silva, we think we are going to be very, very good at this. And you never think of Arsenal as a set-piece side, but second in the league. You know, that's not bad when set-piece goals conceded. You know, look at that, one for Arsenal. They've really tightened up, and they've been trying to do that for, I was going to say years. It's almost a decade they've been trying to do that, but they have tightened up, haven't they?
They have, and that comes down to good coaching. Arteta clearly is doing an incredibly good job. But Pat, I'm looking at our team. Thiago Silva, Aubameyang, Loftus-Cheek, Chalobah, Kai Havertz. Come on, I'm naming 6 foot plus, 6'2" players plus there. That should not be a problem today. Tomiyasu's not playing, another one. Zinchenko, he's not going to be an aerial threat. We've added to that, we've brought in Aubameyang. Today should not be a problem, Pat, but as we saw against Brighton last week, it turned out.
I love that you say it shouldn't be a problem. I agree, it shouldn't be a problem. We have got enough power there. Sometimes it is about a delivery. One other thing, one quick word about the other night there against Zagreb. Delivery for corner kicks, we got it right. I would say that's the best delivery for corner kicks we've had in years. Really, it was spot on. So maybe we're the danger going forward from the set pieces this season. This game, I mean.
Pat, let's hope so. Pat, I've said this for years now. I think one of the most disappointing aspects of the Premier League is, and this is a Premier League problem, are deliveries from wide areas. There aren't many that can do it. There are many that can, but there aren't many that deliver on a consistent basis. Corners and set pieces. De Bruyne is the exception that makes it. But you look, a lot of teams get it wrong. Brighton got it right last weekend. Our deliveries midweek were better. But it's a part of the game. You and I used to play against Wimbledon, right? Their season hinged on either defending or attacking set pieces, and that's how they largely stayed in the Premier League for as long as they did. It's such a crucial part that really we and other teams should do much better with.
Well, it's one of the many things that Graham Potter has to think about before today's game. Let's hear all his thoughts from yesterday.
Highs and lows of football, highs and lows of the emotions of the game. Had a real disappointment at the weekend. Previously to that, it's a fantastic achievement in terms of ensuring our qualification in the Champions League. So that's football. We're disappointed with how it went against Brighton, of course, and we're looking to bounce back as quickly as possible. We did that quite well against Zagreb, but now we've got another game at the weekend, and we're looking forward to Arsenal. I think my degree's been important in some way, only as far as it can help me put some theory onto my experiences, and my experiences have been with the players and the amount of years I've been doing the job. As I said before, you know sometimes that if you want to try and do something new, if you want to try and do something different, you can come unstuck, and you've got to find that balance and then understand how to provide a safe enough environment where players can feel trust and feel responsible and feel support. So we try to get that balance right. Like I said, the boys have been fantastic in terms of how open and honest and responsible they've been. But we're all hurting. We're all hurting after the weekend. We didn't want to lose in the manner we did. So we have to accept that criticism and negativity can come your way because we weren't as good as we'd like to be, and that includes myself. So we have to respond and do better. Now, Denis is a good example of I think a process, and sometimes it doesn't go your way, and how you react and how you take responsibility for your own actions. I think he's been supportive of the team. He's been training really well, training hard, so that when he got his opportunity, he was ready, he could play, he could perform. And we're all really happy for him that he scored and he could help the team win. Yeah, team celebrations were fantastic because they could see, and we could all see how much the team has valued him and how much he's valued his effort when he's not played. Everybody wants to play. We've got a group of high ambition, a group of players that all want to help and be on the pitch. So everybody knows each other's frustrations when they're not. And I think that's why you saw the celebration and the reaction that the team gave is a support for Denis and an acknowledgement that he's had a tough time. Yeah, Arsenal's just been a club that we've met along the way. I've had some key results against, and obviously the first two games for us this Sunday I think it's the last 32 of the Europa League, and one defeat in the first game and then one in the second. It was probably a big game for me personally. And then as we went into Brighton, we had, I think, an important win after lockdown, which was a massive part of us, ensuring our safety into the Premier League. So you have these type of results sometimes, and just so happened that they came against Arsenal. I've got a lot of respect for them and for Mikel and what they've been doing. We need to make sure we're ready, and we need to make sure we're competitive and aggressive and positive, and we're looking forward to the game. Yeah, we really want to try and get the positive results. I think it's really important that we can, because, like you say, we can have some positivity going into the World Cup. 3 very tough games, of course, but very exciting games as well. And the boys have been training well. They've been ready. I think they know the importance of the week. So we just need to focus on the next one, which is Arsenal, and give our best.
We're joined by Savage Dan to bring some much-needed confidence and reason ahead of a massive game today. How was your journey in?
It was fine. It was good. A late call-up.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. A big game. A very big game.
Yeah. What's the atmosphere like outside? How do you think the fans are feeling?
Do you know what? It's a bit of a mixed batch. There are a lot of fans who don't know what to expect. I think I probably fall into that category as well. I'm not sure if we get a performance. I think we're due one. But, no one's as confident as they would usually be going into a fixture against Arsenal. I think over the last few years, they've managed to claw back a bit of control in this fixture. We used to batter them every single time we played them, and then they found a way to turn it around. So now everyone seems a bit apprehensive, but I guess it might be a good thing because there's not as high expectations of us. Maybe that's less pressure on the players.
It feels like the rivalry is bigger than ever because in the WSL as well, we are going head-to-head with Arsenal throughout the season. Elizabeth, what have you thought of Arsenal in the WSL then?
Yeah, they've been playing really well, and like you mentioned, Abby, going head-to-head against Chelsea last season. Chelsea won the league by just 1 point, and Arsenal were in second, and they've played them a couple of times over the past couple of years, and it's really been a mixed bag of results. Some results going towards Chelsea, others going towards Arsenal, so it's becoming this big rivalry, like you mentioned.
And talking of the women's team, some good news this week. Jessie Fleming has extended our contract, which is amazing to see. I feel like she's developed so well over the last couple of seasons here at Chelsea. What was your reaction when you saw that news? Were you smiling like me?
Oh, of course, Abby, of course. I'm so happy. She's such an integral part of that team. And I think what she brings to the team is super unique. And it's really great to see that Chelsea's getting their business done and prioritizing key players and making sure to extend those contracts as well. So very happy to see that she's here for a couple more years at least.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing news. And of course, they take on Man United later on today. So good luck to our women's team. Who do you think is going to be the difference today then, Dan? Who's going to be our star player? Is it going to be Aubameyang?
I hope so. I really hope it is. It would be romantic if it was him. It's hard to call. I don't even know what shape we're going to play. Again. But we know that Aubameyang's going to be playing up top, and that we need goals, and that we want goals, and that he'll want to score, and he'll have an extra incentive to put the ball in the back of the net. So I would love a Chelsea win and an Aubameyang goal. But I think it will come everything that we do good, I think it will go through Mason Mount.
Yeah, it always does, right. OK, score predictions then.
2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea. Oh, I'd love to see that.
It feels like, you know, Arsenal have been on a good run. I've had a very good career of bringing misery to Arsenal fans. I think it could continue today.
Oh, I hope so. Elizabeth, what's your predictions? Also, feeling confident?
I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie, going into this match. It's a London derby, so anything can happen. They've obviously beat us at the Bridge the past 2 times that we've played here. My head is saying 1-1, but my heart's saying 2-1 like Dan, so I'm going to go for a 2-1.
OK, 2-1. Fingers crossed, everybody. A huge game ahead. Let's hand over to our commentary team then of Jason, Pat and Joe.
Good morning and welcome to a wet southwest London for a proper clash in the capital. The longest running top-flight derby. It began 115 years ago this week with a 2-1 Chelsea win. I'm sure 40,000 people inside Stamford Bridge this afternoon would absolutely take that scoreline again. I'm delighted to say that I'm in the company for this one. 2 legends of the game. Very, very delighted to say that I'm beside Pat Nevin and Jason Cundy. Pat, good afternoon, mate. We're not quite there yet, but good morning.